Chances are everything that you know about dissociative identity disorder comes from a movie. A murderer with a split personality, a villain who transforms into something superhuman. It's dramatic, but it's entirely wrong. In the next few minutes, we're going to step away from Hollywood and into the real science behind DID, what it is, how it develops, and why it's far more about survival and resilience than danger. We'll also look at how films like Psycho and Split have shaped the public's imagination and often in deeply misleading ways. Now that we've set the stage, let's begin by grounding ourselves in what DID actually is. DID develops when the mind, overwhelmed by severe and repeated childhood trauma, protects itself by dividing experiences into separate identity states. These aren't fictional personalities, they're parts of one person, each carrying different memories, emotions, or roles that help that individual survive. Dually, they are all individuals with separate and often very distinguishable identities. To understand it more fully, it helps to look at what this experience feels like from the inside. People with DAD may lose time and find themselves in places they don't remember going. They may discover objects, messages, or decisions they don't recall making. These aren't hallucinations, they're results of the different identity states taking over when needed. These shifts make more sense when we look at the broader concept behind them: dissociation. Dissociation is something we all experience, more or less, like zoning out while driving. But under extreme trauma, dissociation becomes a survival tool. Instead of allowing overwhelming pain to shatter a child's world, the mind scatters it to different compartments, what eventually becomes identity states, otherwise known as alters. And dissociation doesn't appear out of nowhere, it often roots in the very early life of a child. DID forms early in life, when the brain is still learning how to build a single cohesive sense of self. If trauma repeatedly overwhelms that process, the mind does something remarkable. It adapts, dividing the unbearable into manageable parts. Although these ideas may sound abstract, modern research gives us concrete evidence supporting them. Modern neuroimaging shows that different identity states activate different regions of the brain, especially those tied with memory and emotion. Some states show different handwriting, pain tolerance, or stress responses. DID isn't imaginary, it is measurable. But DID isn't a new discovery. Our beginning of understanding this disorder actually stretches back more than a century. In the 1800s, clinicians documented strange cases of quote unquote double consciousness. Pierre Janet later proposed that traumatic memories could split off from awareness entirely, a theory that became the foundation for today's trauma research. As clinical knowledge grew, the disorder eventually found its way into formal diagnostic systems. This disorder formally entered the DSM in 1980 as multiple personality disorder. In 1994, it was renamed dissociative identity disorder to reflect what the condition truly is: one personality divided by trauma, not multiple personalities in one body. Even so, public understanding has often been deeply shaped by less science and more so storytelling, especially film. Psycho introduced audiences to the idea of a murderous split personality, but Norman Bates' symptoms align more with psychosis, not DID. Still, the image stuck and shaped public misunderstanding for decades surrounding the disorder. And that trend continued into the modern era, with even more dramatic portrayals in the modern era. The example that comes to mind is Split. Split revived Hollywood's fascination with portraying an identity state with supernatural strength and powers and evil intent. While dramatic, it painted DID as a dangerous and unpredictable disorder that fueled stigma and overshadowed the real experience of trauma survivors with the disorder itself. These portrayals can be engaging or cinematic, but they often blur reality. So let's take a moment to separate fact from fiction. In reality, people with DID are far more likely to be victims of violence rather than the perpetrators. Their identity states aren't monsters, they're coping strategies formed in moments of unimaginable vulnerability. Once we strip away the myths, we're left with real people who are working towards healing. Treatment focuses on helping alters or identity states communicate, cooperate, and eventually heal the trauma that once forced them apart. DID isn't about brokenness, it's about survival. And with support, many people with D&D live stable, meaningful lives. And with that in mind, we can return to the bigger picture. When we look beyond Hollywood and return to the more evidenced data that we've looked through, DID becomes less of a mystery and more of a testament to human resilience. It is the mind's powerful way of protecting itself and a reminder of how deeply trauma can shape us and how profoundly healing is possible.